Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Blacklogic. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has labeled China's recent tariff escalation as a very big mistake, asserting that China is playing with a losing hand, and Bessent pointing out that the U.S. exports only one-fifth to China's compared to what China exports to the U.S. So there's an unequal balance, meaning that we have these so-called equal tariffs agreements, but not the equal of the amount of exports versus imports, U.S. versus China. Because again, the U.S. exports is only one-fifth to China compared to what China exports to the U.S., suggesting that China's retaliatory measures are less impactful. He also emphasized that the U.S. holds a very substantial advantage in this trade dispute. Now, what we have to understand is China came out in response to this, and basically they said that the threat of an additional 50% tariff on China imports, and opposed to that was the Chinese foreign minister declared that the nation would fight to the end to protect its interests, meaning that China is not backing down. If anything, China will increase its tariffs against the U.S., and of course, in a retaliatory measure, the U.S. would do that in same. Now, Beijing accused the U.S. of blackmail and warned of necessary countermeasures if the U.S. proceeds with the tariff hike. Of course, global markets have experienced volatility in response to the escalating trade tensions between the U.S. and China. While European markets show signs of recovery, the overall sentiment remains cautious as investors assess the potential long-term impacts on the tariff war. Now, the Chinese foreign minister had these remarks to respond to Donald Trump in this ongoing tariff war.
I would like to reiterate that there are no winners in a trade war or a tariff war. Protectionism offers no way out. The Chinese people do not provoke trouble, but we are not afraid of it. Resorting to pressure, threats and blackmail is not the right way to engage with China. China will take all necessary countermeasures to resolutely safeguard its legitimate and lawful rights and interests. The actions of the US side have not demonstrated any genuine willingness for serious dialogue. If the US truly wishes to engage in talks, it should adopt an attitude of equality, mutual respect and reciprocity. If it persists in disregarding the common interests of both countries and the international community and insists on escalating the trade and tariff conflict, China will, as always, fight to the end.
So unfortunately, we are in the beginning, what seems to be a very, very long battle with China when it comes to this whole tariff and trade war. And no one will be the winners. Now, I do agree with the Chinese foreign minister when he said that no one will be the winners. Both countries will suffer. And don't forget, I really want you guys to think about all the items, all the services, products that we get from China, because a lot of our American businessmen have went over to China to get things made. And again, I made this comparison before. I made this example before. Take, for instance, let's say this remote, okay? This remote in America, if an American, if they had the company in here in America that make this remote, it will cost, take, for instance, $10 or $10 a remote, and they would sell this remote, let's take, for instance, $40. Now, people say that's good profit. Well, in China, this same remote will be $1 and they will still sell it to you for $40. So you can definitely understand the benefits. And that's just a very, very quick down and dirty example. But that's to kind of wrap your mind around why so many American businessmen went over to China to get their slave labor. I mean, to get their cheap labor. Was that a Freudian slip? But nonetheless, I think this is also a ploy by President Trump and the Trump administration to bring a lot of businesses back to America, to have things to be made in America, which will create a lot of jobs for Americans. So again, we're in the beginning of a very, very long tariff/trade war, and hopefully this pans out. The U.S. Supreme Court has ruled in favor of the Trump administration use of the 1798 Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged Venezuelan gang members. However, the court stipulated that individuals must be first granting a court hearing. They must receive due process before deportation. And this particular decision underscores the balance between national security concerns and their due process rights. So again, they have been granted to use this 1798 Alien Enemies Act, to deport a lot of these Venezuelan and other foreign terrorist, quote unquote, gangs and cartels to the El Salvadorian prison, but they must receive due process. We're not just capturing people off the street and then deporting them. They must go through a court proceedings. And I do agree with that. I think the court was very, very fair in that, but also a win for the Trump administration by the way of the courts allowing them to use the 1798 Alien Enemies Act. Border czar Tom Homan stated that immigration and customs enforcement agents are the primary authorities in deciding whether a detainee is linked to a gang and should be deported immediately. I don't know how that's going to violate what the courts just approved, because again, according to the courts, they must receive due process. Now, this highlights the significant discretion ICE holds in immigration enforcement, which raises questions about oversight and criteria used in such determination. ICE has intensified its focus on Venezuelan gangs, Trinidad, using tattoos and other indicators to identify alleged members for deportation. However, experts caution that such markers are not always reliable indicators of gang affiliation, raising concerns about potential misidentification. And that can be a huge misnomer when it comes to ICE, by the way, of the borders are Tom Homan, of how they are linking people to either gang activities and or gangs. And the reason why I say that is because what if for a moment you haven't committed any crimes, but you made the decision that you want to be part of Trinidad. So you started there, again, you haven't committed any crime. You're just getting the tattoos. You're getting tatted up. You want to be part of the gang. You want to be involved in some of their activities because that's what, but you have yet to do so. You have not committed a crime yet. You're just getting the tattoos. Now, after you've got all your tattoos, you come to your senses. Like, no, this is not a good decision for myself. This is not a good decision for my family, etc. But you never remove the tattoos because, again, that's a very lengthy process. It's very costly. I know you pay the same money to get the tattoos on, but yeah, it takes time. And you get scooped up by ICE agents. But you have never, ever done any affiliation when it comes to the committing crime, so to speak. Yeah, you've been with some gang members, but you didn't do anything wrong. You get what I'm getting at? I know that's a sweet spot. I know that's a gray area, and there's very, very few people who are in that sort of status and or classification. But I'm just making a scenario that someone has not committed a crime, but got the tattoos and backed out and say, you know what? I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to stop hanging out with these gang members. I have yet to commit a crime. I have done nothing wrong. But nonetheless, you get scooped up and you get deported. And what if they're a legal resident? What if they're American citizen that so happen to be Venezuelan? So again, there's a lot of room for error here, and I think we really need to pay close attention to these deportations. As if you are illegal inside the country, you should be deported to your country. If you are an illegal immigrant and you're committing crimes, then you definitely should be deported to the El Salvadorian prison, CCOT. But nonetheless, if you guys are new to Blacklogic, please hit the subscribe button and also hit the subscribe bell so you can be notified every time I release a video or go live. Now, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu concluded his U.S. visit without securing commitments from President Trump. I know that made him very sore. He thought he had a good rapport. Israel and America, we are allies, but nonetheless, he had to leave early this morning without any commitments from President Trump to remove tariffs on the Israeli imports. Additionally, Trump's announcement of direct talks with Iran on his nuclear program added to the visit's perceived shortcomings from the Israeli perspective, meaning that our prime minister came to America to talk about these reciprocal tariffs, as you call them. And now we're talking about Iraq. We're talking about Iran, about their nuclear program. I'm not here to talk about that, President Trump. I'm here to talk about these reciprocal tariffs and how we can renegotiate some of these percentages that you've put on Israel. President Trump is not having it. He's hardcore cemented on these reciprocal tariffs. Some people say retaliatory, but reciprocal tariffs, because for a very long time, America has been giving an unfair deal, according to the Trump administration. Now, despite the challenges faced during his U.S. visit, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed Israel's commitment to eliminating its trade deficit with the United States, aiming for a more balanced economic relationship. So again, I think everybody is aware that what Trump is doing is not unfair to these other countries. It's more of a shock and awe that these countries was not ready for the change, even though he warned them while he was running, even in his first 30 days, what he was going to do. And he started off with Canada and Mexico. Now, this brings me to my last report here. It states here that Musk made direct appeals to Trump to reverse new tariffs. Why would Elon Musk, the head guy in charge of Doge, ask President Trump personally, can we decrease or reverse or hold off on a lot of these tariffs that you put? Why is that? Because Tesla CEO Elon Musk, he made these direct appeals to President Trump to reverse the newly imposed tariffs, citing severe impacts on his company. And I don't just think it's his company. It could be his companies, by the way of SpaceX, Tesla, the Boring Company. So again, he thought there would be some favoritism here, and these reports got out, and Donald Trump, despite his efforts, Donald Trump said no. Musk was very unsuccessful in persuading the administration to change course. No, these tariffs will affect everyone, not just American businessmen, international businessmen, foreign dignitaries, anyone who has businesses dealing with products and services that's coming in and or out of the United States of America, or who does business with the United States of America, they will affect you. So again, a lot of these companies, even on the status of Elon Musk, richest man in the world, you probably need to be getting on the phone and speak to people that are part of the government to negotiate from that side of the house. Again, you and Donald Trump was buddy, and now it seems as though that business is at hand, and Donald Trump is playing no games when it comes to the business aspects of things. I do applaud Trump on that. He's not showing favoritism to Elon Musk, because for a very long time, some conservatives and a lot of liberals were stating that Elon Musk was essentially running the country, or he was running the country alongside President Trump. But again, when it comes to these tariffs, no one is safe. No one is safe. Now, I just want to get you guys' take on this next video here. This was very interesting because I was wondering what the driver was thinking. I'm pretty sure that the driver was panicking. But I'm going to play the video so you guys can see it. Okay, so right here, the vehicle realizes, you see the reverse lights on, the vehicle realizes that it just got under the barricade or the cross arms here. As it's going through, it gets through clean. So instead of continue down the path or going across the railroads, it stops. because it probably hears, it makes the train noise, ding, 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 letting everyone know. You have visual cues, you have audible cues, and you also have the physical arms. So if you made it past that, you just continue driving. Many of us who drove over railroads and we see the train coming, we see the arms, and I've never done it because I'm kind of scary with that. I'll just stop. But I've seen people make it through just fine. Now look at the rest of this. So the arm comes down, they back up, run into the arms like, no, won't you just go forward? And so instead of going forward, they try to reverse even more. They're about to break the barrier arms, okay? Instead of doing that, this person gets out of their car. Why would you do that while the train is coming? Why didn't you put your car in drive? Wow. I can't make any sense of this. So you get through, you hear the noise, you stop. I don't know why you stop. There's no train coming at this moment. There's no train coming from the other tracks. Okay, there is a train coming on the tracks that you're on, but I know that people panic, but why not just go straight? And then it seemed though that you wanted to save your car because you kept backing up. Then you get out of your car and you walk away. This doesn't make any sense. But this is the beautiful world that we live in. I thank you guys for joining me here this morning. You guys have a great and wonderful day. This is Blacklogic.